Hello everyone, welcome to section Working with Arrays and Collection. Topic is Use Generics including wildcards. Please watch my video till the end. If you like my video, give thumbs up and click the bell icon to subscribe to my channel. Generics. Generics are type parameter for code. It provides template. The purpose of generic is to use same code with different types. It provides compile time safety, which is better than runtime exception. Generic collection can contain specific type. However, non-generic collection can contain anything. So let's see. I have created one project in IntelliJ named generic and created one class legacy code. In this class, I am going to define a method print names I use a for loop to iterate over all the elements in the list. This would be the list of strings. And it will go over each index. And then print out. Here I am going to define a list names. And I'm going to add new string builder. Instead of string to show you what happened. So now you can see that we have created a non-generic list and add string builder instead of string. And let's see what happened. The code compiled, but at the runtime it has given an exception. And the exception is class cast exception. String builder cannot be cast to string. Okay. And it has come to line number 7 here. So now I will write all this code with generic. And here I would like to mention string, and here I would like to mention also string. So now you can see that the code doesn't compile here, and this is a compile time exception, and we have found that there is a problem here, and we have two options. Either we change the list into string builder, or we could change this string builder to string. Okay, and here we can also do the same. And now we can run and find out that it has printed out Webby. Okay, so catching an error on a runtime is way harder and then compile time, and it is very easy to find and fix the error and run the program. Okay, generic class. If I would like to write any generic class, as you have seen that I have used a class type parameter, which is a generic data type. So let's see this one. I am going to define my own class which is a generic class. All right, it has a formal type parameter like we had over here, the list. This is a formal type parameter. We can mention the type over here. Okay, and here I am going to mention a field contents with generic type, and I'm going to get the getter and setter methods. So now you can see that in the get method we have used the formal type parameter as a return type, and the set method we have used this t to set. So here we can pass anything. Okay, next, diamond operator. Diamond operator is a shorthand notation allowed to omit the generic type from the right hand side. So what it means, I have a class here main, and I'm going to use the list. And list here initialize with array list, and as I did with the string, both side I mentioned, here I'm also going to mention integer both side, and map string integer map equals to new hash map, and here I'm going to again use string and integer, and map long, and here inside I'm going to use again a list of integer. That's what you can do as well. This map equals to new hash map and here the same. Okay, so this is a way you initialize your generic object. List is an interface, and array list is a concrete class. So we are assigning an object to an interface. Here we are also doing the same thing. Map is an interface, and we are using the hash map. The first one is a string and integer, key and value. The another one is key is long, and value is a list of integer. Now you can see that this code is not neat. How could we make it neat? So this was in Java 5. In Java 7 they came up with a new idea. They said, instead of doing this, we can omit the right hand side formal type because it is a redundancy. So this way it looks neat. All right, and this sign we call it diamond operator, and diamond operator is a shorthand notation to omit the generic type from the right hand side. Okay, let's do some more examples. I'm going to make a class travel and one class elephant and then class zebra. Here I am going to make a object of elephant and I'm going to use my same class which I built, crate, and put the elephant there, and I say crate for elephant equals to new crate, and you can see that I have not mentioned the elephant over here. And crate for elephant dot set contents elephant. So you can see that in set contents I have put the elephant object. As you can see that the type you mention over here, they can go over here. Okay, and how I can use the get method in new home. This is our created object dot get contents. So get content will return an elephant object. So you can see that. All right, it returns the type. Next I could do the same thing for zebra. Create zebra crate for zebra equals to new crate, and you can set and get. These two classes, zebra and elephant, they have nothing to do with each other. I can make a completely different class and use here with the crate. For instance, I have a class robot, and even though I can use with that one, I say robot Joey robot equals to new robot, and I can put that robot in the my created generic class, and I can set and I can get. Set the content and get the robot on the destination. Okay, now you can see that. So I don't need to write down a specific class for a boat or elephant or a zebra. I could do everything just by using generic class. Next, naming convention. A type parameter can be named anything you want. The convention is to use single uppercase letter to make it obvious that they are not real class names. So the following are common letters to use: E for element, K for map key, V for map value, N for number, T for generic data type, S, U, V, and so forth for multiple generic types. Okay, so let's make one more class. And I call it size limited crate, and this class has two fields, this time contents and size limit. Okay, I am going to generate constructor, default constructor, and constructor with two parameters. Now in the travel, if I would like to use size limited crate, how could I do? So I'm gonna make one integer num pounds, which is 15,000. So you can use underscore in the numerics. All right, so compiler will take out while processing. So I use size limited crate let's put here elephant because I already created, and integer is right above. All right, u and v, two types and c1 I call it, and equals to new size crate. All right, so this is a way you could so we have one default constructor, and we also have the two parameters, so I can use that one, elephant and num pounds. So here I am using the second constructor. So this is the way we do with a generic type with two formal type parameter. Type erasure. Type erasure, this is a process of removing generics from syntax from your code. Why we do that? Because it provides backward compatibility. Generic they introduced in Java 5, so there's a lot of a code had been written and they didn't use generics at all. So to provide backward compatibility, Java has introduced type erasure. So let's go back to our crate class. So what would happen behind the scene? This complete class. So behind the scene, wherever there is a T, it replaces with object. And the compiler convert above class into the following code. So the code to be compatible with older version of Java do not contain generics. Okay, now comes to the travel class. Let's commit this one and this one. So what the compiler do when compiler see the code like this? So compiler remove this one, remove this one, and here put robot. So this is the one will be done by compiler. Okay. So I'm gonna put the type erasure code over here. Let's commit this one and uncommit our class. Okay, so now you know what is going on behind the scenes. Okay, next is generic interface. So just like a class, an interface can declare a formal type parameter. So let's create one interface, name shippable, and we can create like this, and we can use in the method as we have done in the class. Okay, It says that there are three ways a class can approach implementing this interface. The first one is specify generic type in the class. All right, so let's make a class. Shippable robot crate implements shippable, and I'm going to say robot. So here I am going to create a class. Class robot, and we are going to implement a method which is in the interface. Okay, next create a generic class. So what it is, it means that I'm going to make another class, shippable abstract crate, and implements shippable robot, shippable u, and implement the method. Okay, so this is the second way. Third way, raw type. This is the old way of writing code. It generates a compiler warning. So let's see. So you can implement with a normal class, with a type parameter class, and you can do like this as well. Shippable crate implements shippable without any type. So this is with the old code. Alright. So these are the three ways of doing this. Next, what you cannot do with a generic. So you cannot call a constructor. Let's see. Let's go to our class sizable limited crate, and here you have a contents. You cannot do like new t like this. Okay, so compiler won't allow you to do that. It's giving you an error. Okay, cannot be instantiated directly. Okay, next, cannot create an array of that generic type. So if I say private array of t, and if I would like to initialize So you cannot do like this. Okay, call instance of. So we cannot call instance of. If I say t as instance of u, then print not allowed. This is not allowed. Okay, use a primitive type as a generic type parameter. If I go to travel class, same one I have, I make another object named C2. Instead of integer, I write int. I cannot do that. So inside must be class, not the primitive type. Okay. Cannot create a static variable as a generic type parameter. So you cannot make private static t constant. Okay, cannot do that. All right, so let's comment out. All of this code. Okay. Generic methods. We can mention method type parameters or former type parameters in the method, and then they call generic methods. It specified before the return type. As you can see that this is an instance method getList, which is accepting the type, passing through the list, creating an object of array list, and returning. The return type is list of t. Method type parameter always is specified in static methods, since they are not part of instance that can declare the type. So let's see. I will create a class handler and I am going to declare static generic method. Return type is void. And I'm going to declare another static generic method. Return type is create of t. Shipping plus t. Okay, and I am going to call these methods and send the type compiler will figure out which one do you want. So the first one is a string and second one is an array of a string. Let's run this one and see how it goes. Okay. You can also call these ones by a class name, and if you like you can explicitly mention what type you are passing into. Okay, so which is completely optional. And here you don't need to mention the handler as well because you are in the same class. But if you mention the type, it is necessary. Okay, so the first one is a string and second one is an array. Okay, next, method type parameter is optional in instance method if they can obtain from a class interface. So now instance methods, I'm going to create one instance method and I say no good. So you can see that the class is not providing any information. So this instance method is not compiled. All right. What would if you do the same thing in a class which provides information? Yeah, so it is optional when the class provides information, and it is not optional, you have to mention if the class doesn't provide. Okay, so for the static method, either they are in the class which provides or class doesn't provide, you have to mention. So static method public static t static method return t. So now you can see that here I have not provided, it is giving me an error. So static will not get anything from the class. So you have to provide before the return type. Okay. A bounded parameter type is a generic type that specifies a bound for a generic. So far we have seen our generic types. So left hand side and right hand side types are exact match. What would if right hand side we have a child formal parameter type or a parent formal parameter type? So for these scenarios we use bounds. We mention wildcard, which is a question mark, means unknown generic type in the diamond, and single question mark means unbounded. So on the right hand side we can assign any type to the left hand side. In the upper bounded we can assign any type that is of type name or extends it. For instance, we have a class here parent and the subclass is child. So the type of parent and child we both can assign to the left hand side. Lower bound, any type that is of type name or a superclass. For instance, if we have the type name child, so we can assign child, parent and object class to the left hand side. So let's see in detail. I'm going to create a one class name main, and I'm going to create further three classes: grandparent, parent, which extends grandparent, child, which extends parent. We have seen the exact match so far. If I mention here list of grandparent, obj equals to new array list, and here I also mention grandparent. So you can see that the left hand side and right hand side are same. Or you can mention this one like that. Okay, what would if I would like to assign a parent to grandparent? So parent is a child of grandparent. I cannot do it. However, I would do through wildcards. So the first one is unbounded, and I am going to use a question mark. It can hold any list like object, grandparent, child. Okay. Upper bounded. Upper bounded hold instance of own type and subtype. So I'm gonna say extends obj2. So own type is parent and subtype is child. Okay. Next is lower bounded, and it can hold own and super type. So let's make list of parent, bj3 equals to new array list grandparent, so own and super type. So it can hold own is parent and grandparent super type object. Okay. Okay, now you can see that unbounded can hold anything, not necessary these three classes, any classes. Upper bound can hold own type and the subtypes. Lower bound hold own type and the super types. Okay, if you try to assign others like child to lower bound or super to upper bound, then compiler will give an error. Okay, make sure this one, you know this thing in the exam. Next, unboundeds are immutable, which means that you cannot change once you create. Upper bound also immutable, lower bound is mutable. So what it means, you cannot add anything once you create. Unbounded. So I'm going to do add. So if I say new object, no, if I would like to say new parent, see, no, if I would like to say new grandparent or child, I cannot do anything. Why? Because unboundeds are immutable. Upper bound. Same case with the upper bound. Upper bounds are also immutable. So if I say obj2.add new grandparent, no, what about new child, no. And if you say new parent, it's gonna say do the same. So you cannot add anything once you create, because it is also immutable. Next, lower bound. So can you change anything in the lower bound? Yes. Let's commit this one. obj.3.add. So lower bound means own type and super type for assigning. For adding, if I add an object, so what would happen then? So super has object, however super also have grandparent and parents. So you cannot, if there is a type of parent, you cannot assign object to parent without casting, or object to grandparent. So you cannot do that. What about the grandparents? Same thing. So if you have object, yes, you can assign the grandparent. If you have a grandparent, you assign the grandparent. But if you would have a parent, you cannot assign it. So compiler will not allow you to do that. What would if you have a parent? So yes, parent you can allow assign to parent and all the super types. Same thing with the child. So you can assign child with parents and all its super type. Okay, so it's pretty nifty. Yeah, it's pretty nifty. So remember that. Assigning is very important. If you know this concept, then you can easily attempt a question in the exam. Normally examiner asks a question in the form of methods. So if you know this assigning, you can easily do in the methods as well. Okay, so now let's move to the methods. Okay, all right. So far what we have done, we know that the grandparent is a child of an object and parent is a child of a grandparent. Child is a child of parent. So parent if you mention over here, so you have seen all types, those are super class of parent you could assign to lower bound, and all types, those are parent and its subtype, you could assign to upper bound. Lower, it means that going towards the object. Upper means more and more child class, and as you know that as the class goes down, it adds more and more methods. So child has methods of everyone. So that's what we say upper bound, this one, and lower bound going towards the object. Let's do the same with interfaces. I'm going to make one class my class, and I make interface super interface, and then interface extends super interface, and my class implements interface, and public static void main. I am going to make a list of interface. I'm going to call it test1. I'm going to call it test1 and assign new array list of interface. Right? So what would, if I put it over here instead of interface my class? So my class is a child of interface, so it won't allow. So for that I would like to use wildcards. So it says that, so it says that anything which is of interface type and extends it can assign. And what would if I would like to assign super interface? Compiler will not allow me to do that because super interface is a super type of interface. So now let's do with lower bound. If I have a super my class and I set test2 equals to new array list, and I assign my class, which is our own type, and the super type. So the super type would be interface and the super interface. So they both are allowed. Okay. Which is visible here. All right. Let's make one class without unbounded, and in this class I am going to create a list of string. I call it keywords, and I am going to add, it is a mutable list, Java OCP 11, and then I would like to pass this list in the class function name printlist, and here I would like to change to object. So what would happen? Compiler is giving me an error, right? They said that list of a string we cannot put in list of object, and you know the reason. All right, so how could we fix this one? I'm going to make a new class with unbounded, and I'm going to use unbounded type as a quick fix. So here I'm going to use a question mark. All right, and compiler won't complain anything. So let's commit out this one. Let's run this class OCP 11. So if I say list of any x1 equals to new array list, so what would be the type of x1? And you know that we can use the var as well. Var x2 equals to new array list. So what would be the type of x2? So the x1 would be list of objects, and x2 would be list, no, array list. We have covered this one in the previous section. Make sure you watch that video. Alright, so this one is mutable and this is immutable. Alright, now I am going to create a list of integer and I say numbers equals to new array list, and I say numbers dot add integer dot value of 42, and here I'm going to make a list of objects. I'm going to call it objects and try to assign numbers to it. So compiler will not allow me to do that. It's the same thing like assigning the string to object. So what is the problem with that? Why not we could do that? Because if it is an object, then we can assign anything. 42, right? And s out number dot get 1. All right. So now you can see that if they would allow us to assign to a superclass and do not give any kind of error, so we could add anything later on, and which is actually a list of integer. Okay, and if I would make it extends, so what would happen? Compiler is smart enough, it actually stops here. No, now the list is immutable, you cannot change anymore. All right, so this is a safety check. So I am showing you why it happens and why we do it. Okay, right, and here it's giving index 1 out of bound exception, yes, so it is 0. Okay. 42. Pretty easy, as you have learned the assignment, so you could do in the methods easy way. So normally we are doing the example for every case, so I have knocked out unbounded. Let's go to upper bound. Let's make a new class upper bound, and in that class I am going to use list of number, list 1 equals to new array list, and I would like to mention here integer. So what's going on? As you know, the integer is a subclass of number. Can you assign like this? No. So what is the solution? As I have explained, integer is a subclass. So for subclass extends, anything extends number. The question mark we read anything extends number, could be here number and its and the subtypes. So here I can also mention arrays dot as list, because I cannot add anything once I create. And I am going to make a function in the class and pass this list into it. So the function type would be long, and I would like to keep it like this, extends number, and let's name it list. Okay, and for that long count equals to 0, and for number list enhance for loop count plus equals to number dot long value. All right, let's compile and run this one. Long value and return count. Let's compile and run this one. So it's giving the 15. So 1 plus 2 3, 3 plus 3 6, 6 plus 4 10, 10 plus 5 15. All right, so what is going on behind the scene? What's going on behind the scene? What's going on behind the scene? I am going to copy and make comment out. So compiler is removing this one. Okay, and here the compiler is putting object and inside the method it's assigning that object to a number and casting it under the hood. This is the compiler is doing for us, typecasting and type checking. We prefer doing through generic rather than raw way. And let's do this one, Control C, Control V, commit this one and take this one out. All right, and run this program. So the answer is same. So this is the one the compiler is doing. So compiler is converting the code, and the benefit we are getting, we are avoiding the runtime error. Okay, so let's commit this one, and this is a type erasure. So you can get all this code from the GitHub. And let's uncommit. Alright, so now you know that what the compiler is doing, and I just mentioned here by down below for better understanding. Alright, let's make one class name flying, and now I would like to use some interface. So we have seen with the class, let's see with the interface flyer, and it has a method fly, and I have a class hang glider. It implements flyer, and I implement the method. I have another class goose that implements flyer, let's implement 2. And let's make our main method, and I'm going to make 2 private methods, any flyer. The first one have a list of flyer, and the second method name is group of flyer. This method has the upper bound of flyer. Okay, I kept this method bodies empty. So let's make an object flying user flyer equals to new flying, and I am going to create a list of flyer let's say flyers equals to new array list, and then user flyer dot I use any flyer and try to put first list flyer. All right, which is perfectly fine. So you can see that the list of flyer, the exact type match. All right, What about if I say same thing for the next one? User flyer dot group of flyers, and I put flyers. So this one, list of flyers, and it means that flyer itself and any subclass, so it's perfectly fine. See, if you know the basic, you could do that. The first few classes of this wildcard, especially the main, this one class is very important, has all concept. Now I have a list of goose and the plural of goose is geese equals to new array list, and I'm trying to do the same thing, putting the geese inside here. So now you can see that the geese have goose. So can you assign goose to the flyer? No, flyer and goose are different. But can you assign goose to flyer and on its subtype? Yes, because it says that goose implement flyer. So for the purpose of this exercises, that the thing which you have seen with the class, you could do with interface as well. Okay. Now let's make one class. We have seen upper bound, now lower bound. And main method, I am going to make a list of string strings equals to new array list, and I say strings dot add tweet in. Now what I have done, I have created another list of object, which is objects new array list, and I have put the string inside. So now the list of object also holds strings. Add sound, this is a method, and I'm going to pass the string in that. So and add of sounds objects so what should I need to do? That I could pass string and as well as object to my method. All right, and let's call it string and list dot add quack. So for that, if I say string and anything which is a super class of string and string itself, so now you can see this program works for both string and objects as well. Okay, and add sound objects. Now let's create a method and just say this one list and say list dot add quack. Okay, so the problem over here that we can assign the object but not the string. So how could we deal with these type of problems in the exam and the daily life? So let's copy this one 4 times for better clarity. Okay, and commit this one. So let's, if I put the unbounded, what would happen? So I cannot do the unbounded. The reason why? Because they are immutable. All right, so let's open another one. What about lower bounded? Objects and anything extends it. There's a problem with the lower bounded. They are also immutable. Okay, let's open the other one. What about if I do exact match object? But the problem is this one is if I do the object or the string, one of these make complaint. So we cannot pass string. So what we can do now? Let's open another one. So what about if I say anything which extends string? Yes. I say anything which is a super of string. So yes, it works because it can hold string and as well as object, because object is a superclass of string. So one method serve for every class and its superclass. So one method can serve own type and super type. Next, remember, generic types can hold exact match. So I would like to create a new class, summary, and I'm going to create a class A, class B extends A, class C extends B, public static void main, and list of A equals to new array list. Okay, so right hand side can hold exactly the left hand side. We can also do like this. All right, wildcard, unbounded, hold any match. So list of any, let's call it list 1, new array list of A. So it can hold A, B, C, string, object, anything. Wildcard, upper bound, any extend type can hold own and subtype. So as we know that upper bound it can hold own type and subtypes. What would if I have a list of any which extends B list 5 equals to new array list, and if I mention here A, so compiler will give an error. Why the compiler giving error? The reason is this can hold B and its subtype, so which is B itself and C cannot have A. Okay, that's what's giving an error. Next, wildcard lower bound. Any super type can hold own and super types. So if I have list of any super type of A, list 3 equals to new array list of A, so it can hold A and super type is object. What about if I have same list of any of super type of B new, so it means that it can hold B and its super types, so it is A and object. All right, next, wildcards can only specify in variable declaration and method parameters. What would if I mention wildcard on initialization side? So compiler is giving me an error. Okay, so what would I make one generic method first and I mention upper bound in the parameter, as it says that it is perfectly fine. So that's okay. What would if I use lower bound? It's perfectly fine, and we can use a upper bound as we can use unbounded as well. . What would if I use this one what would if I use this one on return type? So compiler won't allow me to do that because we should know what the return type is whenever we use the method. Okay. Next, you cannot add an item in a list with unbounded or upper bounded wildcards. As we have seen that if I would like to add something in unbounded, so it will give me an error. Okay. What about if I do this one in upper bounded? It is giving me an error. What would if you use with lower bound? So you can do only with lower bound. Okay. Next, you cannot use object in method if type, parameter and class and scope have same name. What it means? If we have a method and it is using a type same as the class has, and the B extends A. So compiler will not allow you to do that because B is a parameter within the scope and the class is hidden inside the method. Okay. Next, you cannot specify bounds without wildcard. What it means? If I specify bound with X instead of and I say X is a type, so compiler won't allow me to do that. because in wildcards we have to mention, because in bound we have to mention wildcard. Okay. Next, as you know that we can pass the list into the methods and they can hold. So I'm gonna make a summary object, and this one going to call first, and in here I'm going to pass array list of string. And I'm again going to call the same method with different object, number or integer. The same thing with I'm going to do with the method second, which can have a list of B and its superclass. So it can have B, it can have A, it can have object, right? So the summary class has all important information. Please make sure that you have a good understanding before exam. Please pass your comments. This is a very important topic, and see you in the next video. Thank you.